Hi, my name is Matt Donahue, and I'm a musician, artist, writer, filmmaker, and teacher in the field of popular culture and the history of rock and roll. And this is why Motorhead matters. Really, to me, Motorhead are the most influential heavy metal / rock and roll group of our time. Growing up when I was a kid, I always was into a bunch of different types of music. My parents would play records around the house, and my older brothers, they played their rock and roll records around the house. And I remember my older brother playing quite a bit of Black Sabbath's Paranoid and Deep Purple's Smoke on the Water. So I was kind of interested in hard rock and heavy metal at a young age. When I was a kid, I had my own paper route, and I bought my first guitar. And, playing guitar and kind of being into hard rock and heavy metal. And got into punk rock around the late 1970s, early 1980s. The first band I was in was called Guitar Heroes, which was kind of funny because, of course, there's the video game Guitar Hero now. Sorry, guys, I had done it first, but I'll never forget, I was at the bass player's house, and he had an older sister who was really cool, and she was all into punk rock and rock and roll and that sort of thing. And she said, Matt, you got to hear this single. You got to hear this single. And of course, it was the infamous Ace of Spades single. Might sound cliche now, but at the time when it came out, definitely in England, Motorhead were absolutely well known by that period of time. But in America, it really hadn't caught on yet, so it was kind of an unusual thing. And pretty much when I first heard this single, it was one of those moments in which, the hair stood up on the back of my neck kind of thing. It sent chills down my spine. It just absolutely blew me away. And really, Motorhead, really so influential in reference to, the world of heavy metal and that sort of thing, and really have played such a key role and have been involved in these different areas of influence in reference to heavy metal. Folks kind of go back to Link Wray, rockabilly artist from the 1950s, or Dick Dale with the surf music scene in the 1960s. But as we get into the late 1960s, people like, someone like Jimi Hendrix, who really was absolutely influential in reference to introducing a heavier guitar sound, more of a psychedelic guitar sound. And then as you continue into this area on the history of heavy metal, we have groups like Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, and then as we get into that whole new wave of British heavy metal, groups like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, they're part of that power metal / new wave of British heavy metal. Tank is one of those groups. One of my all-time favorite groups during that period is the infamous Girls' School, and Motorhead were well known for their St. Valentine's Day Massacre EP. So at that point in the band's career, really, again, Ace of Spades came out, and that just really blew the lid off of this whole new wave of British heavy metal sound and scene. And what you find is then the band kind of went through some changes in their career. Had a falling out with Fast Eddie Clarke on the Iron Fist album. They brought in Brian Robertson, the guitarist from Thin Lizzy. And as you get into that whole period, really for me, that was the first time I got a chance to see Motorhead. I went up to Detroit with some buddies of mine. And Motorhead were playing at a really small little place in Detroit. It was almost like a bowling alley kind of thing. And this is one of my prized possessions from that particular show, the T-shirt that I bought. And this is very early in the band's career, 1983. And there's a great image of Lemmy, Filthy Animal Taylor, and Brian Robertson on the back. Again, the band kind of changed membership, and they brought in Wurzel and Phil Campbell. That was also one of those turning points for me, going to see them, again, up in Detroit. I'll never forget, I had a dream that Motorhead played Toledo, and then I was there, and then I got to meet Lemmy. And I remember, going to my buddy's place. We're partying, we're hanging out, and my buddy turns to me and he says, "Hey, Matt, you'll dig this. Did you hear that Motorhead are going to be playing in Toledo at the Bijou?" And I couldn't believe it. It was like the day after I had this dream. It was just such a intense, premonitionary moment. And I went to the show, and it was just so amazing, just absolutely amazing. And it was with, Mickey D and Phil Campbell and Lemmy, of course, the newer three-piece lineup. And it was just so intense, and I had an opportunity to meet Lemmy after the show, and I told him how much his music and the whole Motorhead ethos meant to me. It was just such amazing, kind of dream becoming a reality type of experience. And I'm quite proud of my collection of Motorhead material and Motorhead paraphernalia. This is kind of an old school classic. I'm a card-carrying member of the Motorhead Appreciation Club of America. And this is great. You can see here, Matt Donahue, August 1st, 1985, and it's such a great, cool little publication that they sent out to the members of the Motorhead Appreciation Club. Love the the Lemmy action figure, White Line Fever. Love the button collection. Of course, the Stage Fright DVD with the new lineup, Ace of Spades classic album series, Motorhead Live in Toronto show. This is one of the last shows with Fast Eddie Clarke. This is such a great live album that came out recently with the new lineup. Better Motorhead Than Dead, Kiss of Death. I mean, just really a great record. Following that up with Motorizer. The t-shirt collection, of course, means a lot to me because I've been doing a lot of research on the heavy metal t-shirt. And if you get into some of the sound recordings, and their last two records, which have just been phenomenal, Kiss of Death and Motorizer, really spanning the entirety of this group's career and their continued influence in the world of hard rock and heavy metal. Motorhead has always played such an influential role in reference to the music that I've been playing in bands with. So I started kind of in the punk scene with Guitar Heroes and Mom's Apple Pie, St. Jude Travel Club, the Great Barbecue Gods. And the next band I was in was called Head, and it was just really great. We did our own interpretations of Motorhead tunes like Capricorn. Turn You Around Again. Grind You Down off of the Iron Fist record. I've got a project now called Mad 45, a combination of punk rock, rock and roll, and heavy metal with a message. And something that I've always tried to do in my collage art is put images of places that I've been, or different pop culture artifacts and different pop culture icons. So in my collage wall of dreams, there's a great poster that I picked up at the Columbus show in which I saw Motorhead this past summer. And one of my favorite classes that I teach is a history of rock and roll class. And this really gives me an opportunity to teach about Motorhead and their influence in reference to the world of heavy metal. What you find is that a group like Motorhead are so unique and so one of a kind, and they're still doing it. And that can't be said for a lot of the heavy metal bands who were around and popular in that day. They're still doing it with the same amount of intensity and inspiration as they have been since the early part of their career.